Hello, everybody. How are you doing? Today is day 74 of the 90-day leadership and duplication challenge. And today we're going to go a little bit more into this blaming game. and I have many stories around what I mean and how this wraps up into like setting goals and moving forward. So I have a question for you. Are you like thinking about, well, I've been doing all these trainings and all these things over this last period of time, and I'm still stuck. And are you one of those people that actually blames others? Like, do you blame your upline for not helping you? Do you blame your spouse? Do you blame maybe the economy? Do you blame the company? What are your thoughts around why you're not growing? I want you to understand that we in our society and all over the world, it's all over the world. It must be a human condition to blame others for your lack of. And, I think it's probably a sibling thing when you have a brother or sister you're growing up and they blame you for something that they did, so you get in trouble and not them or I don't know why we do this, but I'm going to give you a couple analogies of why this is it's not acceptable in our culture as far as our business and our team. And I want to be able to create a culture where, we have such an amazing team that we're looking forward into the future. Because if we have a culture where blaming is acceptable, like I've seen it happen, I'm going to try to wrap this around really well for you. But I have a team here in the United States, or they're not a team anymore. I'll just say that. and when I started building in India, they were blaming me for not helping them more. And the problem really is that I shared with her, I had classes every week, they didn't show up. I invited them to my house, they didn't show up. I tried to do things over Zoom for trainings, they didn't show up. And when I finally went over to her house and asked her, she goes, "Well, you weren't there to help me." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I did these classes. I invited you over to my house. I invited you every week, every month. We were doing this, but it's been 2 years and you've never showed up." And really, when it comes down to it, when you point the finger at someone else, it sort of lets you off the hook. And that is very negative. Was looking back at how negative it was when they did show up. Like when it's like, "Oh, I can't do that," or "I can't do class," or "I didn't invite anybody because I don't feel comfortable doing it," or whatever the excuses that I'm trying to train them to do would be a wall instantly up in front. And that negativity drips on everybody else. Like, "Oh, well, she can't do it, so maybe I can't. Maybe I'm having," instead of the positivity of like, I could see her doing that. I really want to do it too. If she could do it, I can do it. Do you see the difference on how the blaming game is actually very toxic in a culture of a business? And as leaders, what is our business all about? Our business is all about causing other people to do more than they would know themselves to do without you. Leadership is causing more out of people to do more things than they would have without you. And so, pushing you to expand, to stretch, to grow, to have fun doing it, and to really engage in being bigger than you know yourself to be. I just love that saying, being bigger than you know yourself to be, because you're willing to listen, you're willing to trust the process, you're willing to invest in you to make it really work, right? So, becoming independent, committing to become independent of your upline is the process of separating yourself from the blame game and excuses of why you're not doing so well. So, for example, I'm going to give you two analogies. If you go to fifth grade in school and you're learning how to do fifth grade and you're taking all these courses and classes and things and you fail it because you didn't do your homework, do you blame your parents? Do you blame your friends because they were out playing in the yard and had the homework done and you didn't, and so you went out and played with them? Okay, so there's an analogy. What if Now, I'm not an alcoholic, but what if you choose to drink and you're an alcoholic and you're trying to stop drinking? You want to no longer be an alcoholic. So it's best, when you go to an event and something and they ask, people are saying, "Hey, you want a beer or do you want some wine?" Or and they're constantly asking you to have that, that they're pushing you into a direction that you're serving and wanting yourself to be in a different realm. You don't want that anymore, but they're begging you and choosing and asking you and pushing you all the time to be in this world you're choosing not to be. So having that negativity pushes you in a direction that you don't want to go. So why do you keep doing it? Why do you hang around those people that are doing that? And taking a look at up leveling yourself into pushing yourself into being that kind of leader that is going to be what your downline wants to inspire to be. And so taking a look at creating a culture of standards, ethics, and identifying the organization in the direction and vibes that you want it to have. So, as your own business, like you're separate, right? You're in your own business. What is that type of organization do you want? So, when we move into the new year, what did not work last year? What have you learned through these conversations to help you set a pathway of having a really good direction for a culture, for the vibes that you want to create, for the direction you want to go, for creating and lifting up your leaders underneath you to be bigger than they know themselves to be? What is in your plans to have that? So, again, it's in our culture to have so many negative things happening around us. So, are you a person that's a stand for not allowing that? So if you have somebody in your business and family or whatever, say, "Hey, I get that you want to say that, but in my world, I'm moving forward, and I just don't want to have that space. I don't want to have that in our community, in our space. If you continue to talk like that, we're going to have to uninvite you until you can turn around and change the positive conversation." I have actually had that happen to me. And I was having drama and, well, woe's me, feeling sorry for myself because I got wronged by another person doing doTERRA and wah, wah, wah. And when you're living it, it's so real. They don't love me, they don't trust me, they don't, and all this stuff going on. Separate yourself from that. If they're creating the drama and you're living the drama because you're living the result that they want out of you, that's on you. In most honest situations, people aren't even thinking about your world. They're just trying to get through theirs. And sometimes the way of survival is killing other people off in the process. No, that is the wrong kind of obstacle in the way, right? We are all here together. So there's a really good book. I talked about it earlier on called Obstacle is the Way. And there's some really good gold nuggets in it. And let's pretend that you are a comedian and you are on stage and you got all the stuff you're talking about, and there's a chair in your way. Now, you're trying to walk across the stage to get something to happen on your comedy, on your performance, but the chair is in your way. So what are you going to do? Are you going to just, oh, the chair's in my way? There's something wrong. It's this whoever set the stage up didn't do it right. Or are you going to use that chair as part of your game? Like, oh, there's a chair in my way, and you're going to trip over it and be a comedian and make it part of your game. If you are in a drama, acting out a drama, and this chair is on the stage and you're doing a drama and the chair is in your way, you can actually take the chair and throw it and did it. So I guess what I'm getting at is that chair is part of the obstacle, it's part of the game. And using that to move through it, to move, recognize it, know that it's there, but move through it as part of your game plan. Now, while I was learning this on today's program, training from Eric Worre, he was talking about I had somebody on my team chatting me that they wanted to perhaps not do doTERRA anymore because it just moved and had to pay rent, and they just don't know people in the area. They didn't know how they could do doTERRA, and where they came from had a lot of issues going on in the community, and it's just so draining, and they just couldn't figure it out. And you guys, she moved to a new area. This is wonderful to be able to use that as opportunity to use doTERRA as a way to learn and meet people. She said she couldn't afford the rent anymore. Use it as an opportunity to make money. Go out there, be bold, play big. Use this obstacle as a new way, as a new pathway, instead of blaming or bringing it down. Part of her exact words were, don't misunderstand me. I cannot bring myself to do doTERRA. And where her place she came from is still in turmoil. Um, Staying in rent is draining, and new lifestyle, new people, she can't seem to figure out the way. And it is the way. All of that excuse and blaming is the way. And I think that this is we can reframe our mind about all those obstacles, all that negativity, and choosing to move forward is what we do every day in life. Now, if you have a child and they came up to you and said the same thing to you, what would you say to them? Yeah, you just go sit down and rest and don't do anything for 6 months. Would you say that to them? So, again, leadership is teaching people how to stretch and be bigger than they know themselves to be, how to do more than they other would otherwise. And without you, like being inspired that they do all this work, that they're learning all the steps that it takes. So some of the questions were, let me find my notes here. So what is the planning process? Like usually when you're going through and running your business, there's these several steps. First, you sign up to do doTERRA. And so first and foremost, we want to get people to elite as quick as possible so that that way they can earn enough money to see value, right? Because in doTERRA, the compensation plan is flipped. You're making 2% in the beginning. And if you take more than 60 days, that 2% is going to it just does not capture any momentum. So every person you enroll, you want to be able to get them on the loyalty reward program, have them host a class for you. That's the magic ticket to get that momentum. And do it within the first couple weeks, no longer than 30 days after their oils. Follow up with them, keep that momentum going. Step number two is repeat the process. They get to elite, have them repeat the process again with their downline. Um, get them in the conversation of independence. Okay, so you got to elite very quickly. Now, the way to independence is teaching your downline the same things. I'm here to help you when you get stuck of what to train them, why is this not working, or whatever. But as you bring that practice in, like I can talk all day about how to ride a bicycle, but until you get on a bike and you learn your balance, you will never know realistically what it is like to ride a bicycle. You can't train balance. People have to get it through their physical motion that they're doing. And so that is the whole process of step two. You teaching the class, you doing the wellness consult, and then you having your downline teach the class. You help them learn the class. All of that process, you're getting better at it. You're learning deeper. You're understanding more. Step three is to do it all over again, right? Get their people to teach. And then you're never ever going to stop enrolling. You are always working on inviting, getting them to class, teaching the class, enrolling them, and then following up. Then what do you do again? Inviting them, teaching them. And really, when you really break it down to the most simplest terms, it's very simple, right? And why do we make it complicated? We always like to make things complicated. But as you're going through and planning for 2024 or for the new year that you're listening to this video at, think about what did you do last year? What did you do through this whole series of videos that did not work? And reevaluate it. You can't move forward without knowing where you're stuck and what you need to work on. What are the gaps that you have? Where do you need to learn? What lessons did you uh, have go wrong last year that you wanted to fill in those gaps? What are the strategies? And plan it out for an 18-month long plan. And I always forget. I kind of look at and do a whole year's time, but I neglect the other 6 months. And of course, the 6 month is probably more loose. Even if you want to go further and do 2 years, sometimes you can't do 2 years. A lot can happen within even, a person can have a baby in 9 months. So, there's a lot that can happen within a year's time. But what are the direction of your goals? So if you want to be diamond, how many leaders do you need to have? How are you going to do this? And if you see that push that you're having, it's real important. What are the directions? So and what are the standards that you're pushing for? What do you need to do personally to make changes for yourself? What do you need to be attractive, to be able to have people who want to be part of your team? And this is really important. This is where an accountability partner or mentoring even takes you to a bigger level because you want to have that trust and understanding that they're going to say what you don't want to hear. Because in order to stretch you and have you to do more than you know yourself to be, sometimes that takes hearing things you don't want to hear. And I'm really bad at that. I'll just be honest, like, sometimes the people talk to me and say, "Becky, you need to be doing it this way." And I'm like, "Arr," that little ego picks up and arr, I get really frustrated. But, I have to sit back and recognize what's not working and to be able to step in to the training process of what I need to learn to grow and to practice it so it gets really solidified into the way of how I want to operate my business. Now, I'm gonna go back to that person who talked to me about not wanting to do doTERRA because they moved to a new location, and, you can design the life that's fulfilling for you. You can design a new life that's fulfilling for you. A lot of people wish that they could move to a different area so they could start a whole new chapter, right? A lot of people are probably jealous because she was able to and they weren't. So when you look at it as a different mindset, as a new opportunity to be able to meet new people, find new ways of doing things, stretching yourself out of your comfort zone with different cultures. Like I've been asked to move to India and that's like completely, different culture, all the different things you have to learn, different way of driving. I mean, there's so many different things, right? And so when you think about just moving in the same country into a different state, it is a big change, but it's an exciting one. You can change your mindset on how to deal with it. Are you tough enough to step outside of what's the obstacle in your way, that you're viewing it as only a perception of what you're thinking of it is. So, back to that flashlight analogy that we talked about the other day, where the flashlight is shining is where your focus is going. So, if you keep focusing on the negative, you're always going to have more negative. If you actually see that that negative is there, like say you want to stop drinking and you keep going to the same house where they're offering you drinks, stop going to that house. Switch it up. The average of the 5 people that you hang out with is what you will have in life. So sometimes moving forward, finding new friends and different things doesn't negate or lessen who those other friends and community is for you. But again, the obstacle is the way. Are you going to use that chair that's in the way as part of the skit, as part of how you can move forward to make new things happen for you? Yeah, try to figure that out and get tough, get right about it, and make it happen. So that's today's lesson. I want you to start thinking about also next year, again, really write these things down, really start thinking about it, discuss with your downline for them, maybe some ideas, and then move forward, you guys. We're going to go much more into depth here about planning and strategies, strategizing and setting goals, and goal setting and why that is so key. So give me a thumbs up that you like the video. It's so important. So I know that you've watched it. And love you guys. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you.